Hey, folks, are your fees retarding your payments? They might be, might not even know it. How does the Medicare system basically calculate the Medicare allowed amount? Well, the Medicare allowed amount's always lower of the Medicare physician fee schedule or the amount that's charged on the claim per procedure. Now, commercial insurance companies, they typically have what they call UCR or usual customary reasonable. Or they may even be using what's called the provider contractually agreed fee that's in the provider contracts that the doctors sign. Sometimes, though, they might be using the payable amount found in the patient's policy. You say, wait a minute, the amounts in the patient's policy? We've never looked at the policy. Well, you're not alone. Most people have never looked at the patient's insurance policies either. But for instance, sometimes you may find that the plan pays 50% of the billed amount when the medical provider is out of network. One nationally known consultant by the name of Zia Rivera Clarkson sent us this letter. We had an out-of-network surgery with innovative services on a small child done by a pediatric surgeon. In fact, this right here was an ambulatory surgical case. There were many unlisted codes. All told, is about $132,000 surgery. Originally, the insurance company only paid $648. Luckily, though, Zia had taken the time to learn ERISA. She sent a letter to the CEO of the insurance company, and that's how they basically deal with ERISA, letting them know that they underpaid. So they immediately paid her an additional $64,000. Why? It's because that particular plan said 50% of billed charges as the plan spec outlined. And sometimes you're going to find that happens on plans that you might realize. Now, what about medical providers' charge amount? Quite often, we've seen the medical providers' charges below what the UCR is. In fact, quite often we find that the medical providers' charges are below what Medicare's physician fee schedule is also, and they're retarding their own payments. Now, when we're talking about the usual customary reasonable, or UCR, some things to keep in mind. Many insurance payers, they agree to pay 80th percentile rates. And you say, well, how do they get to an 80th percentile? Let's say we have 100 providers, basically 100 charges coming in from providers around the country. And they will take those that fall within the 80th percentile from the lowest to the highest and set it at that rate. Now, some plans, though, they may only pay 50%. Or you may have to basically look and see what that particular policy says, but on the patient's policy. Unfortunately, many medical providers unknowingly set their fees at levels below the 50th percentile. Sometimes we've seen it as low as 20% of the percentile rate. And that's kind of bad. An annual review of your billed amounts and your usual customer reasonable per service is definitely recommended. At Don Self & Associates, that's what we highly recommend. So with that in mind, what kind of answers do we have right here? Well, if you're using 200% of Medicare physician fee schedule, are you safe? Well, the cost of living in your area might be higher or lower. It might be developed by the Geographical Practice Cost Indices, also called a GPCI. The skill of your contract negotiator. Sometimes people just automatically accept whatever the insurance company says. And they say, will you negotiate? And the insurance company says, nope. And they believe them on the first try. Well, it's kind of like paying a list price on a car. You don't want to do that. Now, what is the value of your practice to the third-party payer? Are you the only neurosurgeon in your area? Or do you have 17 others that's in your area, thereby decreasing your own value to that particular payer? The payment amount listed in the patient's policy may also dictate whether or not you are charging too low right there. Now, we also ask some questions about legality. Now, we're not attorneys, but is it legal to charge different fees per carrier? It is in every state other than New York and Texas. Why? It's because these two states have laws saying you must charge the same fee to every carrier. And by the way, that does not apply to the patient, just the insurance carriers. Can you give discounts for cash payments? Yes, we've been recommending that for almost 4 decades now. I typically like to use the term prompt pay discount because that way we're offering that to everyone. Not only the patients will take advantage of the prompt pay discount by paying on the date of service, But if an insurance carrier says, yeah, we'll take advantage of that too, sure, we'll give them the same break. They just better be wiring that money into our bank on the day the patient's in the office. Never seen an insurance carrier offer to do that yet. What about waiving deductible co-insurance for hardship patients? I read yesterday that some places in the country, people are paying $8 for a dozen eggs. Somewhere the inflation is between 9% to 14%, depending upon which liar in Washington we believe. People are paying twice as much today for fuel as we were a couple of years ago. Rent's going up. So yeah, patients need help right now. And you can get that help, or you can give them that help by downloading a hardship discount application on our website. They're on the more pages of our website under the free documents. And then give the patient the application, let them complete it. If they're within 200% of the poverty guidelines, which is also listed on our website, then you don't have to make an attempt to go after the patient for their deductible, the co-insurance, because you'll be following the current laws. And that you will find that your income is probably higher by giving the services to those patients at whatever the insurance carrier paid than if you didn't give them the service at all. Overall, I think you're going to find your income goes up by doing that, and it helps the patient. So we're definitely in favor of that. What if your fee review reveals that you've been retarding a carrier payments in the past because you've been charging less than you should? Well, you can file a properly amended claim to get additional income if you're within the appeal period. Note, the appeal period is probably not what you think it is. You might be thinking, but I've got a 30-day appeal period, and we're beyond that. You may not have a 30-day appeal period. But you say, isn't my appeal period set by the insurance carrier contract that I have with them? Not necessarily. If it's a commercial insurance policy issued by an employer to an employee, when the employer is not the government or church, then it's not what you think it is. Because in that instance, which more than 80% of commercial claims fall into, it's an ERISA claim. And it's not going to be based off of your carrier agreement. You say, ERISA claim? Yeah, a lot of people have no idea what ERISA is. It's a 1974 federal law. And on ERISA claims, the only appeal period that applies is what is in the patient's policy. And I can guarantee you it's not less than 180 days because by federal law, it has to be at least 180 days. Many times it's more than that. You can get more information on that on our ERISA page. Anyway, we hope this has helped you. If today has helped you, do us a favor, click like and subscribe. And if you have questions, send us an email, donself@donself.com. Thank you for spending the time with us today.